This story is one I heard as a child during a village festival. It's a tale my grandfather shared with the village elders about a strange experience from his youth. Not far from our house, there's a clear stream running through a valley. In that valley, there used to be an old, crumbling building. Back in my grandfather's youth, it was used by someone in the village who made coffins for the deceased, storing them there temporarily before funerals. One night, my young grandfather was drinking with friends at a hut outside the valley. As the liquor ran dry and their stories dwindled, one tipsy friend proposed a daring bet. The village elders had always warned everyone to steer clear of that coffin storage building in the corner of the village. The bet was simple. Whoever could enter the building and stay inside for a set time would win, and the losers would cover the cost of the drinks. To my grandfather, who loved a good drink, this sounded like the perfect opportunity. Without hesitation, my grandfather and his friends headed toward the building. But the closer they got, the more an eerie chill crept over them. When they reached the building, they suddenly heard a faint swish-swish sound coming from inside. Exchanging nervous glances, they mustered the courage to peek through the window. Inside, they saw a woman in a white robe stroking a coffin at an unnaturally fast pace. Her movements were so swift, they didn't seem human. Too terrified to even scream, my grandfather and his friends fled back to their homes. They ran so desperately that their clothes tore, their bodies were scratched, and they were drenched in sweat. The next morning, after a sleepless night, my grandfather met with his friends to talk about what happened. Strangely, he was the only one who remembered the ordeal. His friends insisted they'd gone straight home after drinking, with no memory of visiting the building, hearing the sound, exchanging glances, or seeing the white-robed woman. They even teased him, saying he must have dreamed it all. That night, as they drank again, and my grandfather tried to explain the previous night's events, it grew dark. Walking home in the rain, the memory of the eerie experience haunted him, amplifying his fear. When he got home, washed up and slipped into bed, he heard it again, the same swish-swish sound from the night before. Frozen with fear, he buried his face in his blanket. Curiosity got the better of him, and he peeked out. There, at his bedroom door, was the same white-robed woman frantically stroking the door. Whether he fainted or slipped into a dreamlike state, he wasn't sure. When he came to, he was standing in the middle of a rice field. Thick fog surrounded him, obscuring the sky and everything around him. He could only tell it was a field because of the cut rice stalks beneath his feet. As he wandered through the fog, he spotted a massive figure ahead. A man over 2 meters tall, with a traditional topknot, wearing a loose jacket with his arms crossed. His body was covered in coarse hair, and his sharp eyes glinted beneath long eyebrows, radiating an intimidating presence. My grandfather stood frozen as the man spoke in a low, rumbling voice. "Hey, come over here." Hesitating under the man's overwhelming presence, my grandfather didn't respond. The giant leaned down, bringing his face close, and asked again, "What's the matter, young man? Cat got your tongue?" With a trembling voice, my grandfather managed to ask, "Where am I?" Smaller figures around the giant answered instead, "Where? Our town, of course." So my grandfather asked the giant, "Am I dead?" Scratching his head, the giant replied, "No, you're not dead. This is a place the living aren't supposed to come to. How'd you end up here?" Oddly, my grandfather felt a strange warmth and familiarity from the giant, as if he meant no harm. So he recounted everything that had happened over the past few days. One of the smaller figures sneezed, sending a gust of wind that made their clothes flutter wildly. Then, muttering angrily, the small figure said to the giant, "Ugh, it's her. That woman." Seeing my grandfather trembling, the giant spoke again. "You might not believe this, but we're Dokkebi. Yes, Dokkebi. You're not dead. But I've been thinking about how you ended up here. And I'm not sure myself. That woman, she does all sorts of strange things to the coffins of those about to die, tainting them with bad energy. She makes even those meant to pass peacefully wander endlessly. I don't know why she's targeting you, but seeing her in your home, that's dangerous. Your life's at risk. This place, it's our town. Not a dream, but not quite your reality either." The giant Dokkebi, after his long explanation, gazed up at the foggy sky. My grandfather was terrified, not just of the woman cursing the soon-to-die and making them wander, but of being stuck in this liminal space between dream and reality. He knew he had to find a way out. "I'm still young," he pleaded with the giant. "I have so much left to do. Please, tell me how to escape this place and stop that woman." The giant Dokkebi let out a thunderous cough, then said with a playful tone, "Well, we're mighty hungry. If you can make us a big batch of buckwheat jelly and leave it in a large bowl by your gate 5 days from now, I'll think about helping you." My grandfather eagerly agreed. He followed the Dokkebi through the fog, walking endlessly until a massive gate adorned with golden bands appeared. The Dokkebi danced and sang, and the gate opened, flooding the area with blinding light. My grandfather felt as if he were wrapped in layers of warm silk as he woke up in his bed, drenched in sweat, but relieved to find the woman gone. Though it felt like hours had passed, only 15 minutes had gone by. The experience was so vivid, he couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality. Determined, my grandfather decided to prepare the buckwheat jelly. For the next 5 days, he was plagued by nightmares of the woman and sleep paralysis. On the 4th night, he woke to a chilling sensation. The woman was there, stroking his face frantically, her voice a disturbing mix of male and female tones, repeating, "Come, come, come." Terrified, my grandfather screamed and ran through the village like a madman, crying in fear. On the 5th day, he spent all his savings to prepare a massive batch of buckwheat jelly. As the sun set, he placed a large basin form of it by the gate, praying, "I've made as much as I could. Please help me." Back in his room, he locked the door, covered himself with a blanket, and fell asleep trembling. Suddenly, he heard his friends urgently calling him from outside. Though tempted to go out, an uneasy feeling stopped him. He stayed inside and shouted, "Why are you calling me?" They kept insisting he come out quickly. Peeking through a hole in the paper window, he saw a dark figure perched on the courtyard wall, mimicking his friends' voices one by one. "I can't come out right now," he shouted. The figure cackled, "Then I'll come in myself." Ho ho ho. Stalling, my grandfather almost made noises as if he were getting dressed. Then suddenly, he heard the giant Dokkebi's booming voice from outside. "What do you think you're doing here, you wretch? How dare you? There's a code even for the dead. Why are you tormenting the living? I'm hungry enough to eat you right now." A fierce argument erupted, followed by gusts of wind shaking the door. A brief scream pierced the air. Then silence. Peeking out, my grandfather saw the courtyard was empty. The buckwheat jelly by the gate was untouched, and no trace remained on the wall. But in the distance, under the moonlight, he saw the giant Dokkebi dancing with a few flickering Dokkaebi flames, heading toward the hut. From that day on, the Dokkaebi, the ghost, and the nightmares vanished. My grandfather told me this story with a stern warning never to go near that building, even out of curiosity. Even now, years later, he still worries it might happen again. That's the end of this story. I listened to it spellbound until my ice cream melted. It was so gritting. I'm not sure if there's really a boundary between reality and dreams, but it made me think Dokkaebi might not be so bad after all. Here's another tale, this time from another person's grandparents. In traditional Korean culture, there was a custom of leaving a bowl of rice by the hearth for ancestral spirits or household deities, much like setting a table for ancestral rites. One night, the grandfather went out drinking with friends from the neighboring village. When he didn't return by morning, his wife, the grandmother, assumed he'd stayed over at a friend's house, as he often did. But the next day, a neighbor rushed over, shouting that a massive fire had broken out in the neighboring village, claiming lives. Panicked, the grandmother ran toward the village, praying, "Please, let him be safe." On her way, near a small stream, she found her husband sleeping by the water's edge. Relieved but furious, she scolded him, telling him about the fire and how she'd feared the worst. The grandfather, just as shocked, wondered aloud, "Why am I sleeping here?" Then he remembered, while drunk and half asleep at his friend's house, he heard a thunderous voice yell, "The rice payment!" It startled him awake briefly before he fell back asleep. The grandmother believed it was a Dokkaebi, repaying them for the rice offerings they'd faithfully left by the hearth, saving her husband's life. Isn't that fascinating? In Korean culture, Dokkaebi are known for their pranks and bets, but also as powerful figures in folk beliefs. They always repay their debts, but they're also notorious for cursing those who deceive them, sometimes for 3 generations. They're all about give and take. If you ever visit Korea and meet a Dokkaebi, show them kindness. You never know. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. I'll be back with more eerie and thrilling stories.